everybody. It is time for another great winter webinar session. We are talking about buyer efficiency and having the most success with buyers in 2023. My name is Jeff Glover, and I'm from Detroit, Michigan. And we've got the one and only Nick Bellmore joining us today as well. For those that aren't familiar, Nick was actually the official first buyer's agent that joined our team when it formed back in 2008. And he had a ton of success as one of the top buyer's agents in Metro Detroit prior to joining us. And of course, had success with us and is now teaching others how to do the same thing. So welcome, everybody. First things first, as you're messaging and commenting and throwing things in the chat today, do us a favor and make sure you change your chat setting before you go to message to all. So it gives you the option to talk directly to the panelists, which, we don't mind if you want to talk to us, you can. We're not, of course, able to read them all throughout the session, but change your setting to all. So that way everyone can see, starting with everyone can see. Let's see where everyone is joining us from today. Drop your city and state down in the chat. We want to know where you're coming from or your province. I know we've got a lot of Canadian friends. I was just in Canada yesterday doing an office launch there. Let's see where everyone is coming from. Throw those in the chat so we can take a look. City, state, province, wherever it's at. Also, while you're doing that, let me pull up my chat here. While you're doing that, I want to make sure that everyone has a copy of the workbook, And so your workbook looks like this. It was sent to you, and also they just threw that in the chat as well. Man, Nick, look at those come in. Wisconsin, Delaware, Arizona, Toronto, Maryland, Nashville. Awesome. Chicago is in the house. Atlanta, Illinois. Awesome. Jersey. Good to see you guys. Florida, Texas, Brighton. Awesome. Orlando. Great stop. Great place. All right. So make sure everyone's got the workbook. We're diving into the material in just a moment. Hawaii in the house. I love it. Good to see you, Hawaii.
Wow.
Minnesota. That's right. So the workbook should say Winter Webinar Series, Show Less, Sell More, How to Work Buyers More Efficiently in 2023. Make sure you have the right one. Get that printed off. They're going to drop that in the chat once all of the cities and states kind of die off, because I know it probably got buried up at the top. So they'll throw the workbook in the chat. There it is. Get your hands on that, because there's a couple things that we're going to reference in here that you're going to want to be able to follow along with. And as I've always said, and the reason why when you come to our events, you get a paper workbook, you're more likely to retain the information as you're writing things out. Now, I know a lot of you like using Word, Microsoft Word, or Google Word, or whatever document you're using to keep notes on, which is great. You actually have more success and more retention. It's proven, by the way, when you write things out. So go ahead and get that workbook printed out so you can follow along today. All right, real quick, first things first, for those are first timers. If you're joining us for the first Glover U webinar ever, like this is your very first, I want to see, throw down in the chat, rookie here, first timer here. Let me know. Let me see where our first timers are. It's amazing, and I love seeing everyone join us for the first time. Awesome. Yeah, just throw a first timer or a rookie down there. Now, you might be an experienced agent, but you're a rookie to us as it relates to following our teachings and our systems. Great to see Cassandra, Amy. Awesome. Yes. Haley. All right. Mandy, Tamisha. Great. Good to see everyone joining us today and taking a chance on us. We promise we will not let you down. Okay. Now, this goes for everyone, because I've got a new resource that I'm sharing. If you did not join us on Tuesday, you absolutely want to write this down. And if you were with us on Tuesday, then just bear with me while I go through these free resources. We're going to get into the content really quickly here. And I'm excited because, Nick, a lot of people think, well, Jeff, you're so focused on listings. You teach everyone how to take listings. When are you going to teach us how to do buyers? A lot of people are really surprised, because we don't talk about it as much from the main stage. But Nick, of our 982 transactions, over 400 of them are buyer sales, over 400. So Absolutely. We're going to share today exactly how we're able to capture, how we're able to convert, and ultimately show less homes so we get more time back. Because that's the thing with buyers. They take a lot of time, but not if you do it right. We're going to teach you the ways to do that. So before we get into that material, I want to give you a couple things. I want to do a couple giveaways, starting with the 2023 business plan. Now, I know a lot of you are smart, a lot of you are savvy. That's why you're on this webinar today. So you probably have completed your plan. And there might be a handful of you that have not touched your plan yet, or maybe you completed your plan back in October and you lost it. So here's the deal. Whether you completed your plan or not, I suggest you get your hands on our plan for two reasons. One, because you're going to be able to see things in there that you can pull out of our plan that you might be able to insert in yours. And number two, our plan also comes with a 90-minute instructional video where I give examples, I give ideas, I give strategies on every single section of the plan. And I'm going to give it away for free. By the way, right now it sells for $50. We sell probably, I don't know, a dozen or so every single day. I'm giving it to you guys for free. Here's how you get your hands on it. Go ahead and write down gloveru.com/plan. gloveru.com/plan. GLOVER, the letter U.com/plan. That's going to take you to the Glover U store. You're going to see it in the, I guess we call it the swag shop or whatever we call it. Anyways, that'll take you to the Glover U store. You're going to put it in your cart like you would anything on Amazon or Target or any of those other sites. When it asks you if you have a discount code, you're going to type in winter webinar, all one word, winter webinar. When it asks you for a discount code, type in winter webinar and we will get you hooked up with a free 2023 business plan. It also comes with, there it is in the chat. It also comes with a 90-minute instructional video to go along with that. That's my first giveaway today. The second giveaway is we produce about 60,000 copies of these magazines. They're anywhere from 85 to 100 pages of real estate sales and business information. We'll take some keynotes from our events. As you can see, this was Jay Bear. He was at our Traverse City event. We took his talk, we documented it, we wrote it out, and we included it in the magazine. We take some interviews from panelists, people that are succeeding using the Glover U system. All of it comes in one fancy magazine. We provide this absolutely no cost, and I pay for the postage and the printing. Here's how you get your hands on it. We distribute about 60,000 copies of these today. Go ahead and take out your cell phones and open up your Facebook app. I'm going to show you how to do this. So I'll give you a second to do so. Open up your Facebook app. And just as if you were searching for something on Facebook, on the right-hand corner, there's going to be a little magnifying glass. That's the search function. Click on that, and you're going to search Glover U Inner Circle. So GLOVER space, the letter U, space, Inner Circle. That's, first of all, that's a free Facebook group, and that's tons of resources in itself. I mean, people are sharing, their best practices for following up on leads. People are looking for accountability partners or role play partners. Glover U Inner Circle. It's a Facebook group. Now, if you're wondering, Jeff, what does a Facebook group have to do with this magazine? Well, in the questions, it's going to ask you, city, state, and so forth. Would you like to subscribe to our quarterly publications? That's what this is. So don't put your email address in there, because if you put your email address in there, well, you won't get it because it's paper, as you can see. All right. That's the Glover U Inner Circle Facebook group. That's how you get your hands on this magazine. It'll sign you up for a subscription, absolutely free. Now, if you're already in the inner circle, because here's what ends up happening. We get about a dozen emails after these sessions, and they'll say, Jeff, I'm already in the inner circle, but I don't get the magazine. That's okay. Let me give you another way to subscribe to the magazine, because what happens is that means at the time when you join the inner circle, you did not give your information to get the magazine. Totally cool. Here's how you get it. Go to gloveru.com/mag, gloveru.com/MAG. Super simple, super easy to get. gloveru.com/mag. That's how you get your hands on the Gazette. Again, we're seeing a lot of good messages come through. Make sure if you want to talk to the entire group, make sure you're changing the setting to everyone. I see the messages come through. It's only to us. It defaults to panelists. So change that to everyone if you want everyone to see where you're coming from. The final resource I want to share with you today, before we get into the material, is our daily text message. Now, show of hands, just raise your hand in the chat or say, daily message or whatever. Show of hand, who receives the daily text message, and is it valuable? Help me out here. Yeah, thanks. Yes. Thanks, Nick. Yep. Yes. Who receives it? Go ahead and just say thumbs up, hand up. Yep. I get it. I get it. All right. Awesome. Every single day I write a daily message, Monday through Friday, real estate specific, real estate related. Sometimes it's, hey, I went on an appointment last night and here's what they said. The last 2 days, I talked about how to get the most out of when you go to real estate events. Anyways, it's always real time. I write those every single morning and it's totally free. There's no spam, right? We do that in other methods. It's an actual daily message of things that are designed to inspire, give you creative thoughts, get your mind moving early on. Anyways, it's absolutely free to sign up. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, take out your cell phones and open up your text messages. All right, I'm going to show you how to sign up. And by the way, if at any time you're not happy with the messaging, you can respond stop and you'll be removed. So go ahead and open up your text messages as if you were texting a new friend. The phone number is 55444. All right, so just like that, I know it's only 5 digits, but somehow it works. The phone number is 55444. And in the body of the message, you're just going to type morning and hit send. Now it'll say messages. Would you like to send a message to 55444? Yep, you're going to hit send and voila. Just like that, you're going to get a response back. It's going to ask you your first name, your last name, and you're going to be set up for that Monday through Friday, that daily inspirational message. Again, you're texting the word morning to 55444. So I wanted to make sure I got those resources out to you so that way you have them. The last thing I want to say before we jump into the material is Glover U, if you are not familiar, is a broker agnostic training and coaching company for agents from all over the US and Canada. I know we also have some people that join us from other countries as well. And what I can tell you is our mission is to impact millions to live their most unreal life. And we do that through webinars, through events, through coaching, through training, through one-on-ones, through group coaching, through online courses. That's our goal. That's our mission. That's what we're about. I've been personally listing and selling real estate. This May will be my 21st year. And the biggest difference, at least if I were in your shoes for my first timers who said you were here for the first time. All right, Jeff. All right. Why should I pay attention to what you and Nick are talking about? Why should I listen to what you guys have to say? And that's for one reason and one reason only, because we're on the ground with you. We know what you're going through. We know what the buyers are saying about interest rates, and now they want to wait until prices come down. All right. We know sellers are still thinking that prices are good, and now you have to get price reductions. We're in it with you. I personally sell between 75 and 100 homes a year myself. Our team, we just sold 982 homes last year. We are in the trenches. That's the biggest difference. There's a lot of great people out there. There's a lot of great trainers. There's a lot of great influencers. You got a lot of great options, and they're all good people. The major difference, I'm out selling all of them. And I'm excited to bring to you Mr. Nick Bellmore, who's got 20 plus years of experience as well, being a top buyer's agent in the state of Michigan for years and years. Now he is teaching his own agents how to be great buyer's agents, as well as our buyer program, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Okay, Nick, let's talk buyers. It's 2023. There's been a lot that's changed in the market. Of course, the conversations look a little bit different today. All of a sudden, buyers are kind of critical of who they work with. It used to be, who can get me the house the fastest? Today, it's who can get me a good deal, right? Isn't that amazing how that kind of changed? And so overnight, there's a lesson in that, and we should be changing our value proposition in our buyer consultations, which is for a whole nother session. All right, Nick, take it away.
Okay, so Jeff, you're 100% right. And absolutely things have changed. And one of the first things that I always want to kind of dive into is some of the mindset. And the mindset has absolutely started to change amongst the public. And there's still some great ways for us to show value to buyers. And buyers are out there. Buyers are still seeing value. I know a couple of us had seen the stat that came out, I believe it was last week. There was a 28% jump in mortgage applications, right? So we know that buyers are seeing value in the market today. And what a lot of agents are dealing with is some of the poor mindset as they come forward. Hey, interest rates are higher, nobody wants to buy, all this type of stuff that comes through. So one of the first things that I wanted buyers agents to start doing is take a look at what's out there and start to shift that mindset. Because the time to win with buyers, it's now. There's never been a better time for us to help them get to their goals and to use some of these methods we're going to talk about today to help more of them go under contract and help them get into their dream houses. And then guess what they do? They start to tell their friends, and it compounds on itself. So I think that's an important piece, is to realize that buyers absolutely are seeing value, and they are definitely out there buying homes today.
Jeff, the more the market softens, the more our value goes up.
Absolutely.
And at the same time, the more critical buyers get of who they hire, because they want the best. So in the last market, there was the only skill you had to have was speed, right? You had to do everything fast paced. In this market, it's still going to be fast, especially when interest rates dip like they have, but they're going to start going back up again at some point. You still have to be fast. There's no doubt about it. But now all of a sudden you got to be skilled, which wasn't really something, Nick, in the last few years. Not a lot of agents had to have a lot of skill. They just had to be readily available and speedy.
They had to be, exactly it. And today we're going to take that to the next level. We're going to show them our value. And that's one of the ways that we're going to win more with buyers. Jeff, here's an interesting stat that I wanted to bounce off you just the same. And I got this from the National Association of Realtors. And obviously they do a lot of studies. They do a lot of polls in this. And there was a couple things that I found really interesting. The first one that I found really interesting was that 86% of buyers found value in their agent for carrying through the process, helping them navigate, going through this journey of purchasing the right home for them. So without a doubt, we are seeing that the public sees value in what we do, which is part of where I want to start to change that mindset, because they really need us more than ever. And so we've got to get out there and have this conversation more and more. And as we lead into talking about the ALM model, this is where this other stat comes in that I found really important. 67% of buyers are only interviewing one agent and then working with that agent.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Think about that. Let that settle in for a minute.
Yeah, 2/3 of every buyer. Yeah, they went with the first agent. And by the way, not always interviewing. It's just the first agent that calls them and sets the appointment.
Right. And so as skilled agents, it's even more important for us to be on top of those calls, to have our speed to lead, be making sure that we're making those connections so that they are absolutely getting the best experience as they go through this process. One more stat I want to throw out there. And Jeff, you've been talking about this for a long time, especially as you started really making that shift into database. 89% of buyers would work with their agent again. And Jeff, as you say it so often, how many of us are continuing that follow-up after the sale, working that database? Obviously, we'll do another webinar on that, but I think that's a really important thing to touch on given some of these stats.
Yeah, there's we have a whole 75-minute webinar coming up, I don't know, in the next few weeks on database value proposition. How do you get more repeat and referrals? And when you do have the buyer transaction, how do you get them to talk about it? That's coming up in another session.
Absolutely. So today, what I want to talk a little bit about is getting more into lead conversion and how can we be as effective as possible as we begin to dive into this process. And of course, one of the things that we're seeing a lot of success with is the ALM model. And I know we've talked about it a bit, but it's a little bit newer out there for some of you guys. So I want to break down the ALM model and I want to talk about why it's so effective right now and why it makes sense for us to be utilizing this into our businesses right away, immediately, as far as I'm concerned.
And Nick, before you jump into that, I think a lot of the people that are on have heard me say before from the stage, and I'm going to reiterate it. We will never present a model, an idea, a system, a strategy, a script. We will never present anything until we've used it, we've proven it, and we've profited from it. So please know that, when we share things, it's not, oh, I heard someone out in Omaha using this, and so now we're sharing it. No, we've actually been using, Nick, the ALM model for 2 years in our business, but we didn't start talking about it until about 6 or 9 months ago. And the reason is because I needed to prove that it worked at a high level. I also needed to prove that it was profitable. And so I hope you guys can appreciate that. We'll never present any sort of ideas or strategies to you unless we've beta tested them for you. And so that's why you're starting to hear us talk a lot more about it now. And we weren't talking about it a year ago. We were using it in our team a year ago. Nick was using it in his business a year ago, but we needed to prove it. And things, you have to prove things are profitable, and that takes a good 12 months. So I hope you can respect that we do that. Sorry, go ahead, Nick.
Absolutely. And why has it changed? Why are we really pushing this forward? Why do we want to show you how this is working today? Because the reality is, prior to this, a lot of us as agents had to go into instant qualify mode. Why? We needed to find the strongest buyer to go into the arena of battle and win against the 9 other offers fighting for the one house that fits their needs on the market. And that's not how it is today. Things have changed. Now, again, when we start to talk about where buyers are finding value, so many of them are finding value in us helping them to make the journey through this process. And this is why the ALM model matters so much for us. So I want to start in the very beginning with the A in the ALM model. And for those of you that aren't familiar, the A stands for appointment. So go ahead, put this down in your notes. A in ALM stands for appointment. And why is that different? Because we've always wanted the appointment. There's never been a time since I've known Jeff, he hasn't wanted an appointment when it comes to buyers and sellers. So knowing that's the case, here's the difference. We are going to look to set the appointment right out of the gate. It's going to be our number one priority. Whereas in the past, we might start qualifying for cash out of pocket or appraisal guarantees or who's willing to waive
shopping.
Right, all that stuff, right? We're not looking at that anymore. At this stage in the ALM model, we want to go ahead, we want to set that appointment. Why do I want to get the appointment set? Well, a couple of reasons. Number one that I want to go back to is the stat we just talked about. 67% of those buyers are only interviewing that first agent. So guess what? I want that to be me. And while they're interviewing me, I'm going to interview them just the same also, right? So a couple things that I want to talk to them about, and I'm going to bring this into the second piece. And actually, I want to actually address this as we go talk about the appointment section of that. What happens if we end up in a situation where, you know, a lot of times we're dealing with internet leads, or even in a faster market, they've inquired on something and it's sold. What do we do there? And so ultimately, this is not going to change anything as we go through the process. I still want to set that appointment.
Set the appointment. Yeah.
Absolutely, right? Because that's what I'm on this phone for. I'm here to set these appointments with leads. And then, of course, I'm going to qualify and go through my process from there.
Let's be real clear, Nick. We're talking about setting an appointment to show the house, not setting the buyer consultation.
Absolutely.
Right? Give them what they want. They inquired on a property. They don't want to hear about your buyer consultation. Now, we're not saying you're not going to do a buyer consult. That's not what we said. You're going to bring that up on your confirmation call, or you're going to bring that up at another point. We're saying when they inquire on a property, you know, hi, this is Realtor Jeff Glover. I see you're interested in 123 Banana Street. When would you like to see it? I've got some availability tonight and again tomorrow afternoon. Which would be better? Just go right for the appointment.
Absolutely.
Go for
100%.
the appointment first. And yeah, as Nick said, even if you see the listings pending, you're staring it in the face in the MLS. It says it's pending. You're on your phone. It's pending. You still set the appointment. Why? Because you don't know for sure that it's pending.
Yep.
Think about your last deal that fell apart. Anybody have any deals fall apart? Throw in the chat if in the last 60 days you had a deal fall apart. I want to make sure I'm not the only one, because I got deals falling apart like crazy right now, Nick. Right?
I got to throw it in the chat too, because I'm dealing with the same
you
thing.
got to do yourself. Guess what? Well, I know it's unfortunate. That's the reality. When those deals fall apart, do the listing agents immediately put those homes back on the market? No, they don't. In fact, when they know they're about to fall apart, there might be a couple days of negotiations to get the deal dead before it goes back on the market. So you always assume when you see a listing that's pending that it could be available. So set the appointment, because guess what happens, Nick? If I don't set the appointment and I immediately go into what so many agents have been taught. Well, I'm sorry to tell you this, but that one's actually already pending, but I've got a few other ones. Call is dead, right? They only wanted that one property. They wanted to see that one property. Set the appointment. Don't even bring up that it's pending. You can do that on your follow-up call. You can do that after you talk to the listing agent who, when you call them, says, hey, funny you should call, Jeff. It's actually, we're going to be putting it back on the market tomorrow. Now you're a hero, because you can say, well, good news is, guys, right now it's showing pending in the MLS. I got to set up for tomorrow before anybody else gets in there. Or they might say, no, sorry, Jeff, it's closing tomorrow. Nick, I just bought myself some time because I got an appointment set to go find another one. Say, hey, good news and bad news. Nick, good news and bad news. Unfortunately, that one's already off the market. Good news is I got a set up over at this new one that came on the market just a few days ago on Apple Avenue. So since we were already planning on meeting tomorrow at 4, let's go see that one. Here, I'll send it to you right now. When I have a commitment from them, it's easier to get that second one if the first deal is not an option. So when you see it's pending, set the appointment. You don't know for a fact it's pending. Just give them what they want, set the appointment. Sorry, Nick, go ahead. I get
100% right.
Because I do these half-day sessions, as you know, Nick, and people will come up to me on the break and say, well, I don't know, that kind of feels a little unethical if I'm seeing that it's pending. And my response is, how do you know it's pending? Well, the MLS says it's pending. And then I go to have you had a deal fall apart in the last 60 days? Well, yeah. Okay. Were you the listing agent? Yeah. Did you put it back on the market the second the deal was dead or the second the deal started dying? Well, no. So then how do you know? Set the appointment, report back later.
Absolutely. And what are we talking about? We're talking about going the extra mile here, right? We're talking about not just simply going, oh, well, doesn't look like it's possible. We're talking about making that inquiry. Do you think that buyer wants an agent that sets himself apart by working a little bit harder? Absolutely. I know I would if I was a buyer, and I'm betting you guys would feel the exact same way in that situation.
Yep. So appointment first, got it. What's next after appointment first?
Once we get through appointment, we want to get into location, right? And obviously they called, they want to set the appointment, boom, it's out of the way. It takes a little tension off the conversation. And I want to start asking that person at the moment, because we know not every buyer is going one house and then that inquiries are done. We know a lot of times they're on there and they're clicking away. They're clicking 2, 3, 4, 5 different houses that they're curious about. Now, what do we also know? That a lot of agents don't follow up in the timely manner that they should. They let it sit, they wait a day, they wait hours, they're not making those calls. So guess what? I'm going to be right there on that call with my speed to lead. We set that appointment. Now I'm saying, hey, tell me what other homes in town have caught your interest? Is there anything else we want to see? Now we're going ahead and we're taking it from the one single house we're taking a look at to I might have 2 or 3 that have come up that they might have gone ahead and inquired with another realtor instead of me. So I want to understand more about that location. I want to understand what else they're interested in. And this gives me the opportunity to get into the conversation.
Yep.
To start digging deeper, right? Because that's where I want to be in this moment. We're getting them into the type of home they're interested in. I'm talking about the location. We're in rapport, because again, we know out there, especially with our buyers, no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. So I want to take my time with them. I want to care and understand about their situation, learn more. Why is that location important? What does it do? Why did you pick it? What's important about the type of home that you're looking for? And I want to get really deep into that piece of it.
So Nick, a couple things that came up in the chat. Andrew, I love the question. Are we doing this on the initial call or at the first meeting? No, this is actually happening. Now, if you have a good enough rapport on the initial call, you can go into this on the initial call. But if you feel like they were rushed, or maybe you struggled to set the appointment, you're going to have a call with them prior to viewing the home, because when you do set the appointment, no matter what, everything is contingent on the seller's availability. So you're going to say, yep, let me go ahead and get that set up for tonight at 5 o'clock. I'll give you a call back with the next few hours when it's confirmed. When you call back in the next few hours to confirm it, that's when you can go into location. That's when you can go into motivation. That's when you can find out how long they've been looking. That's when you can find out, if they're pre-approved. That's when you can have some more of those discussions, but not until you get the appointment set. All right. So the second thing I want to address is, Chris, that's a really good point. That's why you just set the appointment no matter what. Chris said, just because it's active, by the way, doesn't mean it's not pending. That's right. It could be pending sale. So when in doubt, no matter what, set the appointment first. All right, go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
No, 100%. So we're getting that appointment. We're going to learn to figure out more about the location. What else is out there? And again, this location conversation, and just like you said, Jeff, we always want to make sure we're going to call back. We're going to follow up. We're not one and done agents. If you're watching this, it's not one call and we're leaving in. Don't make me get into the 3x3 lead follow-up, because you know how I feel about that. We're not one and done. We're making sure that we're coming back with the follow-up. We're making sure that we're having those conversations and we're building that rapport. Again, how do I know how to best serve them if I'm not asking them questions about their situation, their expectation, and their needs? So,
so appointment first, L is for location second. And what does the M stand for?
M stands for motivation. Jeff, this is my favorite, right? Because when we dive into motivation, we really learn exactly what it is that has got them entering this journey, what's important to them. So I want to dive into that motivation. I want to learn about what's important about the move. I want to learn what's important about the timing. We know also, as we start talking motivation, that 70% are motivated by moving away from pain and 30% are moving towards pleasure. So this
Yeah.
is where I want to find out, number one, how are you motivated? How is this buyer motivated that I'm in the conversation with now? Is it
Mhm.
towards pleasure? Is it away from pain? And if it is away from pain, I need to learn as much about those pain points as I can. If it's
Yep.
towards pleasure, I need to learn about those goals as much as I
Yep.
can.
So, moral of the story here, and Catherine, I just want to answer your question. No, you're still going to let them know if it's pending. You're not going to go show it. If it's
Mhm.
pending, you're going to let them know it's pending.
Yeah.
All I'm suggesting is, since you already have something set up for tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Remember, if you set the appointment first, you got something set up for tomorrow at 4 o'clock. You better find something else to show them, because in
Mhm.
their mind, they're booked. They're going to see something tomorrow at 4 o'clock. So if it's pending, I'm going to let them know that. I'm also going to let them know of another one that I found. Now, here's the deal. They might say, yeah, we're familiar with that one. We already took a look at it. And then that's when I might follow the rest of the buyer script, which all of our scripts are online. That's when I would follow the rest of the buyer script and set a buyer consultation at that point. If I've got no more showings to set up for them, they're not interested in seeing the one that I did set up. Now I'm going to start talking about the value of doing the buyer consultation. But that's the moral here. Do not bring up the buyer consultation at all on your initial call. They don't care. Now, if it's a first-time buyer and they're saying things like, well, we've heard it's really tough right now to get an offer accepted. And we're kind of interviewing agents, and that's different. You're going to go for a buyer consult there. But when they're inquiring on a specific property, give them what they want. And that's an appointment to see the house. Because if you don't give it to them, they can pull up any app they want and schedule it right through there. So give them what they want, give them what they're after. That's why it's appointment first, location second, motivation third.
Absolutely. And it gives us that opportunity to spend some time to start to build that relationship. Today, relationships are going to be more important than they were in the past. In the past, it was so much more about us qualifying and moving through and who had the ability to win an offer at that stage. And today, it's going to be into how do we build and form these relationships, and how do we serve the needs of these customers as we're going forward and exposing them to what's available out in the marketplace. So understanding their motivation is such an important part of us being able to bring them exactly what they're looking for and start to expose them to what's out there in inventory.
Yep.
So when we look at the ALM model, that is the big focus of what we're looking at. We're looking at setting that appointment. It's our number one priority. We're looking at getting deeper into the location, into what's important about that for them. And then we really want to make sure that we have a firm understanding in that motivation. And we know that the more time that we start to spend with them, the easier we can build rapport and get that understanding. And then again, we're going to dive into our qualifying conversations as we're building that relationship. And of course, at that stage, we need to understand a lot about, of course, motivation, which we've already talked about, as well as ability, as well as timeline. And ability doesn't come into, hey, how much money do you have? I mean, is that a piece of it? Yeah, it's 100% a piece of it. But it also comes into, what are you in a lease? What are your obligations? Do you have the down payment? Do you need help with closing costs? And none of these are door closers anymore. This is just where we get to go ahead, understand more about that situation, and start to present solutions for them. Because I can tell you, for a lot of people out there, we're getting closing costs paid for our buyers today. My team got 50% of the buyer deals put together in the last month. We received some form of seller concessions that was less money out of pocket for
Yeah.
those buyers. So
Yeah.
it's definitely back. It's happening.
And Nick, before you move on to the next portion, I just want to put a bow on the ALM conversation, because there's a few more questions that have shown up in the chat.
Sure.
Number one, yes, this model will absolutely lead to more contracts signed. And the reason is this: because it's going to lead to more face-to-faces. And if you know anything about Glover U, if I didn't go on an appointment today, seriously, what did I accomplish? That's our mantra. That's one of our mantras anyways. So this will absolutely lead to more buyer offers written, because you're going to get more face-to-faces than normal. Somebody asked the question, what about if they're working with an agent, or how do you handle if they're working with an agent? Well, first of all, I'm not suggesting you break any rules. I'm not suggesting you ignore the code of ethics. The only thing I will tell you is this: please know, a lot of buyers will tell you that they're working with an agent to get you to back off. All right. They know that if they tell you that they're already working with an agent, then you're going to ask them less questions. So my response, anytime they tell me that they're already working with an agent, is, oh, that's great. Almost everybody does. In fact, Most buyers work with multiple agents until they find one that helps them secure a home. And I'm curious, do you have a contract with that agent? 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. We're just getting listings from them. No, we're just getting, we saw homes with an agent last week, whatever. 9 times out of 10, they do not have a contract. And if they don't have a contract, I don't care what follow-up plan they're on. I don't care how many emails they're getting. I don't care if they saw homes yesterday with someone. If they don't have a contract, it's fair game. Absolutely fair game. So when they tell me that they're working with an agent, I just assume that they're going to tell me that to get me to back off. So my response is always, oh, I can appreciate that. Almost every buyer that gets in touch with us, Nick, is working with an agent before they reach us. And that's cool. A lot of buyers use multiple agents before they finally find the one that's going to help them find their dream home. By the way, do you have a contract with that agent? Oh, no, we don't have a contract. We've just been looking at homes and so forth. Awesome. And there's a reason why we're talking today, right? And then I'll ask them more questions about their location, their motivation. So I wanted to make sure that I addressed that. And I believe that was the only other thing. Buyer consultation. Yeah, that can happen at the first showing. Absolutely. I'm in favor of doing it at the first showing, or your first time out. I'm also in favor of doing it at their home. A lot of times we've been taught, do the buyer consultation at the office. Forget that. Do it at their house. You'll get more listing contracts signed. Why? Because I can say, Nick, while I'm there, let me take a look at your home and I'll bring some comparables to give you ideas of what it's going to take to get it sold. So if I'm doing a buyer consult, I'm doing it at their house, but I'm not bringing up the buyer consultation on the first call. That's all we're saying here. No one ever said don't do a buyer consultation. We're saying don't bring it up on your first call. They don't want to hear about it unless, and this is the last thing I'll say on this, Nick, because this was in the chat as well. If they say something along the lines of, we're getting ready to start our home search and we'd like to talk to you about what's going on in the market. We're getting ready to start our home search and we'd like to talk to you about, what it's going to take. That's opening the door for closing for a buyer consult. The ALM model is most effective when they inquire on a property. So essentially 90%, Nick, of all the online leads you get have a property attached to it. That's when you use the ALM model. All right, enough about ALM. What's next, Nick?
All right. Well, I want to touch on one thing you said for a quick second, because Jeff, it was so important and I don't want to glance over it because it makes a huge difference. And I want to tie it into some things that have happened to me personally. And what you've said is, hey, listen, just because they say we have to dig deeper when they say they're working with an agent. And I had this happen to me recently and they told me, well, yeah, we have an agent. And I went right in just like I've been trained. Okay, I totally understand. I respect that. Tell me a little bit more. Who's your agent? Well, I don't know. Well, okay, I understand. How'd you find them? Just out of curiosity. Well, I inquired online and they sent me an email. Now that was their definition in the moment of working with an agent, that they had done an online inquiry. They had received a response via email. And for that, and I asked them, I said, hey, are you guys tied into that agent? Are you open to kind of looking? Because they clearly at that point told me they did not have a contract.
There's nothing wrong with saying you should be shopping around. As long as they don't have a contract, as a realtor, you absolutely can say that.
And who'd they buy with? They bought with us. Why? Because our value prop is stronger than the average agent. So for all of you watching out there, let's make sure that we have a strong value prop. And obviously this ties into, as we talk about qualifying with the buyer consultation, but having a strong value prop and being able to talk to them about why you are the right agent makes a difference, especially when they're not sure. And we take this for granted. For so many on here, we know this process. We work in this every day. Jeff teaches it. So of course it seems so simple sometimes to us, yet for them, they're not always sure what we mean. So the more questions we ask and the more we dig into these situations, the better we are going to be able to help them move through the process. And that's just one example of somebody who thought they had an agent, but ended up with us as an agent for sure. And of course had a great experience. Yeah. So that's a huge piece of it. As we go into it, I want to talk a little bit about what you touched on too with the buyer consultation. Yes, obviously we want to use this as our ability to qualify, but when does it happen? Right? It can happen at multiple different times, and it doesn't have to be this big formal thing. And I would say buyers today are moving away from formality more than ever. So we should be paying attention to the service and the experience that they're expecting. And that is one of the reasons that I absolutely love going to their house for the buyer consultation. And I'll even pull the word consultation out of it. And hey, I just want to do a quick buyer meeting with you to go over strategies and make sure that you're getting the very best house for the budget that you're working with. That's asking for a buyer consultation without me coming out with the scary word of, I'd like to sit down and do a buyer consultation together. Let's look at how we're asking and then what is the intent. So for the buyer consultation, obviously there's a couple of things that really go into this. But if you're watching this now, if you're an agent on this, your intent with the buyer consultation really needs to be twofold. Number one, it needs to be to understand how to service and give this buyer a great experience. What are they looking for? What are some of their details? But the other part of this that not enough agents, in my opinion, are doing right now, this should be also your opportunity to qualify this buyer, whether or not they fit your model, and they should be working with you. For so many of us, if our model is let me just grab every single buyer out there, we actually end up putting together less buyer deals because we're not being specific about what it is we're looking for out there in the marketplace. And again, this ties in so many times we talk about what is our definition of a lead? And I need to make sure that the people I'm meeting with, the people I'm talking to, are meeting my definition of a lead and my agents that is meeting their definition of a lead before they're going out and putting appointment after appointment. Does that mean don't run out for a single appointment? No, today it's more important than ever to go get
So
face to face.
get them in the funnel and then
Yes.
take them through your process to determine whether it's somebody you're going to continue to work with. Nick, we have a lot of agents on our team that have tons of success with buyers. I mean, we're talking 40, 50 buyer sales a year. And their motto is, I'll go show anyone one time.
Yes.
I'll go show a house to anyone one time. Will I continue working with them after that one time? That's yet to be seen. And that's where the strong buyer consultation comes in. And that's where the guidance comes in and the advice. And so, no, we're a big believer in set the appointment, get in front of them, and then decide whether you want to continue working with them.
Absolutely. And I'll touch a little bit about when we're in front of them. So whether this ends up at their house, whether it ends up at the first property, whether it ends up old school and they came to your office and you're at a conference room table, there's a couple of things that you want to dive into. And the things we talk about, and we do teach this in Buyer Mastery, so I'm going to go over it briefly, but we spend 2 solid days on this, so I'm not going to do it justice in the next few minutes. I want to dig into a couple pieces of this. Number one, I want to talk about the discovery section, right? That's where I'm really learning about them. What got them involved? Obviously, we touched on motivation, but this gives me the time to do the deep dive. I can learn about their needs and wants in this section. Again, this doesn't matter if it's at a Starbucks or preferably in their living room, because that's their comfort zone. That's where they feel safe, and that's where I want to be. And when I'm sitting with you in your living room, it really gives me the opportunity to learn more, to build rapport, the whole entire thing. So if we're saying, hey, Nick, what's your preference? I'd love to come to your house. I'd love to sit in the living room and talk to you about these things. And this also lets me know a couple other things in the discovery section. Number one, what are the deal breakers? What are the things that all of a sudden, if this is the case, nope, I don't want it? And also, who is the decision maker, right? Because ultimately, maybe not every decision maker was involved in the very first call. Yet a lot of times, if I'm having this conversation in the living room, everybody who is a decision maker is going to be a part of this talk, and I get to understand what's important to them as we go through the process.
Yeah.
Second piece, when I'm using the buyer consultation to qualify, is actually talking about the process itself. I want them to understand what it looks like. And obviously, state to state, these can be so different. So it allows us to really hone in on how things work locally and be able to go through that conversation and start to set those expectations. The other thing I get to talk about a little bit in this as we're going through that process, I also get to talk a little bit about the offer consultation. And guess what? I'm never bringing up problems in this conversation, but I want to familiarize them with how we make an offer and what that process looks like. And then obviously I can talk about what it looks like once an offer is accepted. And same thing, I'm keeping this brief, I'm keeping this light, I'm keeping this upbeat. I'm not talking about what happens if the appraisal doesn't come in at value. I'm not
Mhm.
bringing up problems. I'm getting them prepped for what it looks like to go through a transaction that's easy, works, and gets them into the house they love. And then, of course, last but not least, as I start to talk about the final piece of using this buyer consultation as I qualify, it's to give them my value prop. It's to sell them on why they should work with me, why I'm going to give them the experience that they're looking for, why I am the one over my competition. And this doesn't have to be a hard sell. And I tell you this, it comes so easy so many times after we've spent 10, 15 minutes learning about what's important, building that rapport, and then to make that presentation and ask for that commitment is just the natural ending to a fantastic meeting with that buyer. So
Yeah.
I think it's really important that we're focused and that we're using that buyer consultation to qualify, not just financially, not just all those pieces, but motivation and
Mhm.
really to understand their timeline as well.
Mhm.
So that's one of the pieces when we talk about, hey, what about the buyer consultation? No, it's not out of there just because we set the appointment first versus waiting for the qualification. We're still going to go into it. We're still going to have those conversations. We're still going to learn more. And then, of course, it does allow us to start future pacing for how we're going to get those offers accepted as we go forward through this process. And of course,
So
go ahead, Jeff.
you have the discovery phase to start. What comes after the discovery phase?
After the discovery phase, we're going to talk about the process,
The
right? That's where
process.
I'm going to really break down exactly how do we show houses, what is the appointments,
Yeah.
all those different pieces.
Yeah.
I'm going to allow it to set the expectation. After that, I'm going to dive into what it looks like when we make an offer, right? And
Mhm.
I
So
label this as the
the
offer
process, just hold on a second. The process includes the value proposition as well, though, right? Like that's your buyer plan of action. Yeah.
A lot of times, yes, it does. It talks about that buy, but it's not specifically where I'm closing for the commitment. I'm talking
Mhm.
about it, I'm educating, but a
Mhm.
lot of times it's more the end after I've gone through everything where I am giving them the value prop or reiterating it and then asking them, to work with me and for us to
Yeah.
be working
So a
together.
lot of people are probably wondering, like, what does a buyer value proposition look like? I know that that's something that you cover in the business accelerator course, which we can touch on in just a little bit, but that's a big thing because today you got to differentiate yourself. Buyers are actually talking to multiple agents. It has been the first agent they meet with because it's speed. Now it's speed plus value. And so, this is a time to go back and take a look at what is your buyer value proposition. And I know that's something that you help agents build in that course.
We
But
spend
I
a whole
cut,
day on it.
yeah. Oh, you spent a
Absolutely.
whole session on it. Yeah.
And here's the thing, everybody out watching this right now, you have a completely different value prop than the other people watching this too. There's not one single. Now, obviously, I could talk about mine, but mine's going to be unique based on my experience and the whole entire thing. That being said, every single one of you, including whoever's on here who got their license in the last couple of months, and you're just diving into this, you have a value prop that can be worked out too. And I do this with agents every day. So don't think because you're not 20 years in the business or you're not Jeff Glover on the billboard that you don't have a value prop. You absolutely do. And developing it is a key piece. And being able to really express it to the buyers is a key piece of helping them understand you are the right choice.
Got it. So then you go from the process and the value proposition to the offer consultation, or at least explaining what's going to happen when it comes time to make an offer.
Exactly it. I want to explain that part of what it looks like when we make an offer. And I want to extrapolate that out to what happens when we're under contract, once that offer gets accepted. Now, when we talk about negotiation itself, why am I diving into this piece? I want to flush out those objections, right?
Mhm.
And what's the most common? Oh man, my uncle just told me that like it's a great time to be a buyer. We can get a real discount. Now, that
Mhm.
doesn't mean that I might need to dive into that and say, well, your uncle's wrong. Let me tell you. No, of
Mhm.
course not. I don't want any of that. But what am I doing? I'm making a note. I know that in the future, this is an objection I'm going to deal with and handle. And of course,
Yeah.
I don't need to deal with it until it's time. But
Yeah.
the more I know about the objections that might come to me in the future of these conversations, the more prepared I will be in order to help them move past or see a different point of view on that objection versus
Yeah.
what they may have with someone else.
So a lot of what I'm hearing and it matches, the title here, show less, sell more. We didn't say meet less people. And in fact, actually following our model, you're actually going to meet more people than you're meeting right now. You're just going to show them less homes. You're going to meet people, and then you're not going to have to show them 20, 30, 40, 50 homes, because that's going to become somewhat normal in the softer market, because you've taken them through this process. You've shared with them your value proposition. You've shared with them, what the step-by-step is going to look like. They're not going to need to see 20 homes to make a decision, because they're going to know that you're only going to show them the best values first, because otherwise we continue looking at homes, the best values are going to go the fastest. And that's part of that conversation.
And we don't have to write 3 offers in order to get something accepted. Why? Because we've set those expectations. We've told them how it's going to work. We've shown them the data that leads to that outcome. And obviously, we have a deep understanding of what it is that they need and want in a home. So they're more committed in their offers. And obviously, at this stage, the competition is less, yet they're not making a lot of times these ultra low ball offers. They're making strong offers and getting them accepted because we've gone through and put in that groundwork. We've set the expectations and we've helped them see the value and why it's important. Because keep in mind, we still are seeing that value in the market. 28% rise in mortgage applications. We're seeing the value out there over and over again. And I'll say this, I still believe in buying real estate to the point where obviously I want to buy more investments, and I want my buyers and I want my clients to feel the same way. It is the future of building wealth and obviously having a great place to live and all that other stuff that comes with raising your family and living in a home.
Yeah. By the way, Nick, Gabrielle sent us a message here in the chat. She didn't share it with everyone, but she said, took the breakout, showed my first home, wrote my first offer right away following this exact process. So yes, it doesn't just work for us. It works across the US and Canada. It's working for a lot of your top teams right now. All right, Nick. So let's wrap up. What comes next? After we explain the offer process, what comes next?
At that stage, we want to dive into that value prop. We want to let them know why you're different. We want to let them know about why it's an advantage to continuously communicate and to work with you. And so obviously that's the part where you're going to dive into. And listen, it could be all the way from 20 years of experience all the way down to, hey, you know what? I'm hungry and I want to work hard and I'll be there when you need me. There's a million value props all the way in between those. So you want to come and talk about what is yours. And if that's something you struggle with, if you need help, obviously we teach about that at our events all the time. We talk about it. But that to me is where we need to deliver that value prop. We're going to ask for that commitment. And then, of course, this is the stage where if I'm not already set up, I am setting that next appointment to get out and see homes. So if we ended up in an appointment that specifically was set for the buyer consultation, this is where I'm going to say, great, when is your next availability? I've got a couple of homes based in mind based off this conversation.
Yeah.
When are you typically available to get out and see homes? Oh, work ends Tuesday at 5. Great. How about we go ahead and we meet at 5:30? I'll send you the first address and I'd love to get you through 3 homes and we'll just see what you think and go from there. I always want to walk away from any type of buyer consultation, setting an appointment. Now,
a future appointment. Yeah.
Every time.
So you're not leaving that. Hey, don't worry. You'll get to look at homes. They're going to come through on your phone. You'll have a couple days to go through those. Why don't we plan on our first round of showings this week, Thursday at 5 o'clock? Does that work for you? You're setting the appointment before you even leave the room or you leave their house.
And our most motivated people will tell you, hey, my schedule looks like this. Great. Why don't we go ahead? We can set an appointment for Tuesday at 5:30. And if you're available Thursday at 5:30, we can do our second round from there. If we're creating that expectations, and we know this, right? If your buyers are out with you twice a week and they're seeing 3 homes per time, there's a great chance that that motivation level is pretty high. Would you agree?
Yep. That's right. Which is another reminder, when they're out looking at homes with you, you look at 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever, you do not leave them without setting the next time we're going to go out and see homes, even if you don't have one lined up.
Absolutely.
All right,
Absolutely.
what's next?
And so with that, that's our stage as we go through. Now, obviously, the one other thing I did want to touch base with us, obviously using the buyer consultation to qualify, but I wanted to touch a little bit on lead follow-up, because I also think that's a place where agents today really need to make sure that they have a system. And the reason why I bring this up specifically is because we know that so many people are not calling leads back enough to transition it into that appointment, to understand the location and to understand the motivation. So I want to talk a little bit, Jeff, before we do wrap it up, in about lead follow-up and how important it is for buyers specifically today.
Yeah.
If you don't have a method, and I can tell you from talking to hundreds and hundreds of agents, a lot of us are spot checking it, right? Oh, I remember this guy, I gave him a call, and then something might go on, or they tried again, or this lead came in, and okay, I know speed to lead's important, but they only called twice. We know for a fact from study after study that conversion is happening a lot of times between contact 5 and contact 9. And yet agents most of the time aren't even getting past contact 2. So I want to talk for just a brief moment about the 3x3x3 method and why it's important and why agents need to use it in this market to make sure they're getting face-to-face and building more relationships. So for those of you out there who don't know about 3x3, I'm going to dive into it a little bit. 3x3 is talking about having 3 phone calls, 3 texts, and 3 emails over the course of 3 days. So we have 3 phone calls. Now, I'm going to tell you, we are, of course, we take what Jeff teaches and we implement here on my team. And we even try to innovate. So we try to push it a little bit further. And today I talk a little bit about us using 3x3x3 plus. What does that mean? It means that we're using the 3 phone calls, we're using the 3 emails, we're using the 3 texts plus video. Because if we're using and sending videos today, we are having a higher level of connection.
I love that.
Right, because we're using our tonality, we're using our facial expressions, our body language, which makes up so much of our communication. And so taking it to 3x3 plus, because we know that the competition is fierce, right? Because buyers are more valuable than ever. Let's set ourselves apart. Let's send them a video. Let's talk about their location. Let's make it about them. And we are going to get more and more response out of that as we go forward.
So the 3x3x3 plus means 3 calls, 3 texts, 3 emails, all within 3 days. Plus include video messaging in some of those, not all of those, right? It doesn't have to be all of them.
But especially an introduction can go so far. And these videos don't have to be a giant production. They can ultimately just be like, hey, my name is Nick Bellmore. I'm a local realtor. I know you'd inquired about one of the homes for sale, and I just wanted to put a face with the name. I did leave you a message, but I just wanted you to know who was calling you. And if you have any questions, or you might want to take a look at the inside, give me a call or shoot me a text on this number, and I'm able to just dive into communication a little bit easier using that video. It breaks down that wall. It takes away a little of that intimidation. It builds familiarity, and it just helps us to get into more relationships. It'll
definitely stand out amongst everybody else that's just calling or texting. And, most people stop. And there's study after study done that the 5th between 5 and 9. I mean, listen, that's not something we came up with. Now we've experienced it. Trust me. I know for firsthand that it takes 5, 6, 7 attempts to get someone to respond. And by the way, Nick, sometimes people wonder, why is that? And it's actually pretty easy to figure out. Think about today, how many notifications you get, how often the text messages, the spam, the emails, the stuff at your door, the notifications through Facebook and social media. We are getting inundated. And so a lot of agents will say, well, Jeff, I really feel like I might be kind of bothering them. They're not keeping score. They're not keeping track of how many times you followed up. In fact, I can prove this. If you actually follow the 3x3x3 and you get into using this regularly, you'll have buyers tell you, hey, thanks for reaching out. Yeah, we want to see it tonight at 5 o'clock. And that might have been my 7th attempt. And they didn't even acknowledge the 6 other reach outs. Why? Because you're not paying attention. The only person paying attention is you, because you update it in your CRM or you update it in your notes. They're not updating those things in their notes. They're not updating those things in their CRM. You're just catching them at the right time because they're inundated with notifications today. The most recent study said the average online lead responds on your 5th attempt. That study was done 2 years ago. I believe the number's probably 5.5 or 6, or maybe 6 to 6.5 today, because there's even more notifications that we're inundated with today.
And oddly enough, the most common response I get when I catch somebody that's between 7 and 9, the most common response I get is this: "Oh, Nick, I got your messages. I've been really busy though. Hey, I would love to see that thing. Are you
Yeah.
available
Yeah.
this day at
Got your
this
messages.
time?"
And they're thinking you've only followed up a few times, and your
Right?
notes say you followed up 7, right?
And
Got your
I'm sitting there like,
messages.
"Oh, do they hate me?" No, they're
Yeah.
just busy and they're not thinking about me. So
Yeah.
that's why it's on us. If we do one thing out there as we get more consistent in our follow-up and we
Mhm.
use the 3x3, you will see the effect within 90 days in your business. Absolutely. There'll be no question about it. You'll have more appointments. You'll have more opportunities for contracts. You will be in much better shape when you
Yep.
start to implement the 3x3x3 or the 3x3x3 plus. Without a
Got it.
doubt.
I love that. So there's been a lot of questions in the chat about building a value proposition, video, stuff that you use. We give as much. I hope you guys can appreciate. And by the way, let us know in the chat if you've gotten some value today. Let us know if the last hour or so has been a valuable use of your time. We try to give as much away as we can, and I hope you can appreciate that. We're going to continue to do that. That's not going anywhere. And at the same time, we can't coach you for hours and hours and hours of being great at working with buyers without some type of program. And so we've been using a program, or we built a program several years ago called Buyer Mastery, and we just updated it. It's been updated for the first time in probably 3 or 4 years. And the reason for that is very simple. The market's new. We haven't had this market like the last 3 or 4 years has been the same. So the new program, by the way, is called Buyer Business Accelerator. It's 16 weeks. You're working live with Nick Bellmore. Nick, I won't steal your thunder. Can you tell us a little bit about the new updated Buyer Business Accelerator?
Jeff, I'm so excited about the new updated Buyer Business Accelerator, and there's a couple reasons why. Now, some of the great things about the old class are absolutely still there. When we talk about process, when we talk about procedure, when we dive into the basics of how to run the business, those pieces are 100% there. What we're going to add more of this year is more of a focus on lead generation and lead generation accountability within it. So we do a couple classes as it is talking about how to generate leads. We're going to space that out a little bit more. So every class has a little bit of lead gen, and we're going to set those goals in order to generate those leads. Here's one of my big things for everybody out there who joins this class, for everybody who's involved with me. I want to see your business grow. I want to see it in real time. Anytime you work with us at Glover U, our goal is to make sure that you are double, tripling, quadrupling, 10xing the money that you put into your training. And that's one of the key factors for us when it comes to changing this class. I want to get everybody in action. I want to get you guys using these techniques because they work, and we're seeing them work over and over again as people's business grow and businesses expand. And it's definitely something that's going to take your buyer business to the next level. And you're going to actually, although you will meet more people, you will put less hours into selling more buyers using this method. 100%.
Well, and I know when we wrote the program, when we updated it, it is designed to get someone to 50 buyer closings a year. That's our model. We've been teaching that in our team even before Glover U existed. And we have several examples of people who have gotten to 50 buyer transactions per year. By the way, Nick is one of them. And so this program is for anyone looking to get to that number 50. Now, if you're already at that number or you're close, I can promise you in 16 weeks with Nick, 45-minute live sessions, you're going to grab stuff that's going to make your life a little bit easier. Nick, we're not all in this just for money, right? We're not all in this to make a great living. We're also in this to provide a great service and get some time back for ourselves, get some time back to spend with our families. And I know that one of the sessions, or several of the sessions, you talk about leverage and how to implement the showing agent model and how to actually increase your buyer business by adding certain leverage pieces. So ultimately, you can do more, you can sell more, but not necessarily on more time. And I just love that it's complete, it's thorough. If you're watching this and you're leading a team or you're leading a brokerage, this is absolutely something. I'll put it this way. It's an expectation. Our agents go through this. Why? Because we need to make sure that we're mastering buyers. That's how you build your confidence for working with sellers.
Yeah.
One of the best questions, agents will ask me from time to time, what is the most thorough way to become a great listing agent? It's to be a great buyer's agent first. Why? Because you're going to build your confidence. You're going to build your knowledge of the market. You're going to understand all of the processes, what's important to buyers, what buyers are looking for in a home. This is absolutely something for, anyone who's brand new, or just listen, I don't care where you're at in your level. You want to get to 50 buyers closed per year. This program was written to help you do that. And I love the added accountability piece that's being added in. I know so many people have loved that in our prospecting boot camp, that you decided to add that to the Buyer Business Accelerator. So if you're at all curious as to, all right, I'm kind of considering it, I'm kind of in on this, just text the word buyer to 55444. You're going to text buyer, just like you text morning, when we started to get the daily message. You're going to text buyer to 55444. And here's the best part. $399 times 4 months. I mean, what is that? $1,600. I mean, that's probably a fraction of one deal. Nick, would you pretty much guarantee they're going to get at least 1 or 2 deals out of this program?
100% guarantee. If you
yeah,
use
I mean, we could,
you will do more.
Yeah, I mean, I've we've worked on the material together, and I know what you're teaching. It's the same thing that we're teaching in our team, and we've got several examples now. Not several, we've got dozens, if not hundreds, of examples of agents across the country who have gone through the old buyer mastery, who are probably now considering, I should probably take that Buyer Business Accelerator class now that you guys have updated it. And we've updated it for you. We updated it for the new market. So again, text buyer to 55444. That is a 16-week live coaching program, 45-minute live Zoom. And also, Nick, in addition to the 45 minutes of instruction, they get 10 minutes of Q&A with you every session, don't they?
Absolutely. Not only do you get 10 minutes of Q&A, we also have a Facebook group that goes with it, where you literally can put anything you're dealing with in your business at the time, and you are going to get an answer from me as well as the other people in the group. And this is not just, hey, who joined my class this time? If you have been through this class with me in the past, you're in the group. And those agents reach out, and those agents contribute all the time when somebody has a question. So the value not only comes into the class, but the community that comes with it, and the access that you're going to have throughout the whole entire process. If you're dealing with something and you need to put it in that Facebook group, I'm going to direct answer your question based on your exact scenario in that moment. So my goal is that I want to see everybody really living their best life, really out there hitting their goals, and making sure that they're getting to where they want, both personally and in business.
And the last thing I'll say on it, and by the way, thanks for the kind word, Jim. Jim said, this has been awesome. I've been doing real estate for 25 years and learned a ton. So thank you for that. This is start to finish too. This is like a launch. This could be a launch program for someone, meaning you cover buyer lead generation, you cover the online lead funnel, where to get leads, what leads have the best return, how to follow up with each type of lead, because you don't follow up with a Zillow lead the same way you follow up with an open house lead. So you go through all of the sources of business, the lead follow-up, the appointments, the actual showing process, like the best practices for showing homes, the buyer consultation, the offer consultation, the pending, I mean, everything from start to finish, end to end, everything you'd ever want to know about winning with buyers is covered in Buyer Business Accelerator with Nick Bellmore. Nick, anything else you want to add?
The other thing I just want to put out there for you team leaders is some of you guys are out there and you're spending a fair amount of money every single month to generate leads. And this is one of the things, we will up that return on that investment. I will teach your agents in order to go ahead and convert those leads at a better rate. And I think that's one of the people who don't take advantage of this much is you giant team leaders out there. And I know there's so many that are really have an amazing spend, and that money is going out, and we are going to help you get more out of that money you're already spending. And you will see those results right away as your agents start to implement these techniques.
Trust me when I tell you, we're absolutely, I mean, our motto for 2023 with the Glover Agency is no lead unturned, no lead left unturned. And I know that that's going to show up in this program, and you're going to help a lot of broker owners, team leaders out there help their agents with conversion. So thanks so much for joining us today, Nick. Thank you, everyone else. By the way, we're Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11 Eastern, absolutely no cost to see the remaining webinars. go to gloveru.com/webinar. And if you'd like to join Nick in the next round of Buyer Business Accelerator, just text the word buyer to 55444. Simple as that. You can read all the details. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of the week. We'll see you next Tuesday right here at 11 o'clock. See you guys.
Thank you, guys.